Welcome to Dawn of a Story. This is more than a podcast. It's a place where we speak the truth, tell the stories that shape us, and honor the moments that made us who we are. I created the space because I believe storytelling is how we connect, how we heal, and how we remember who we are. Some stories are still being written. Some are full of laughter. Some have changed everything, but all of them matter. Whether it's my story or one of my guests, my hope is that you hear something that resonates, that reminds you that you are not alone and encourages you to tell your story too. So settle in because every story starts somewhere, and this one starts now. Thank you for tuning in and welcome to Dawn of a Story. I'm your host, Dawn Pascal. I'm so very grateful you decided to spend your time with me and my guest this week, Jennifer McCabe. Every show, we will be exploring a new theme, and this week's theme is the stage of my life. For some, the stage is just a place to perform. For others, it's where life unfolds. This conversation is about the lessons learned under the lights, the stories shaped by creativity, and the life lived on and off the stage. So let me tell you a little about my guest. Jennifer McCabe is an artist who has spent nearly 30 years as an actor, teacher, and director, weaving her life through performance and storytelling. Her passion for theater began in early childhood when she was captivated by the stage as young as 2 years old. Beyond her creative work, Jennifer is a nature lover, a homesteader who finds balance in hiking with her dog Sadie, gardening, singing, and gathering with friends and family by the fire pit. Her story is one of artistry, connection, and deep appreciation for both performance and presence. So, without further ado, let's get started. Hello, Jen. How are you?
Hi, Dawn. Thanks so much for having me today.
I'm so excited that you're here. It's so good to see you.
It's wonderful to see you.
Thank
Wonderful to
you.
see you. Yeah,
So, Jen, let's start. You've been immersed
sure.
in theater since childhood. What performance or experience made you fall in love with the stage?
Well, I love that question. I might start it by giving a teeny bit of a background to give you more context. We'll see. Maybe that's helpful. So, both my mother and stepfather were actors. My mother is still technically an actor. They didn't do it as a career, but they did it as extracurricular activity. So they were doing community theater in their neighborhood. And but my stepfather was in the fire sciences. He was a fire chief. He ran the New York State Fire Academy.
Wow.
He was head of fire safety at Grand Central Terminal, a job that he created. And my mother was a social worker. So they would do all sorts of theater, gig after gig in their neighborhood. And my stepfather was also a director too. So how it happened was my biological father and my mother divorced when I was 2. And then soon after that, maybe 3 or 4 years later, my stepfather came into the picture and they met doing theater. So he was directing a production of Man of La Mancha, and my mother auditioned for the production for the role of Aldonza, Dulcinea, and she got the job, and that's sort of how they met. And because my mother was a social worker and a single mother at the time, she didn't have money for childcare.
Mhm.
So we had to go, my brother and I. We had to go to every single rehearsal and every single show and just sit there in a dark theater and watch. We just watched. We watched actors talking to directors. We watched directors talking to actors. We watched directors talking to creative teams. We watched it all. And through that experience, which in my I guess understanding would be experiential learning, I came to just feel a love for it that I didn't even really know I had. So it was almost as if it was kind of coming in through my skin, through
Mhm.
my pores kind of thing. But I do think that the performance, if I had to nail one down, it would probably be her performance as Aldonza in Man of La Mancha,
Wow.
which, is a kind of scary musical to
Mhm.
watch as a young
Mhm.
person. There's a lot of uh, I don't know, disturbing scenes that take place in that musical. But I was able to handle it and watch it and look and see how real it felt. And I think that's probably what it was for me, was that performance. I mean, I could go on and on, but I won't.
No, but you please go on and
Yeah.
on. That's the whole point of why you're a guest and you're on and you're on the podcast is to go on and enlighten us with your story. And I did not know that about your mom and your stepdad and talk about finding each other through something that they were so both so passionate about. That's a real connection there.
Yeah, it was pretty amazing. It was pretty amazing, and so that was really it. And I think one of the kind of an extension of that memory is really there used to be a theater in Mayapack, New York, and if you've ever seen the film Tootsie, starring Dustin Hoffman,
Mhm.
um, there is a B-roll shot of the Mayapack Farm Playhouse, and that is the theater that they did that production in.
Wow.
And in that theater, there was a whole back room, and, it's really incredible to kind of talk about it now, Dawn, so thanks for this opportunity, but it had this whole back room of old, gosh, props and set pieces and statues, and it was just this huge room that had all of this stuff,
Mm.
make believe stuff, like fake stuff. And so my dear friend during childhood, her name was Charlene. We used to go because she would just keep me company, and we would just go in and around all that stuff and just put stuff on and play make believe and dress up, and then we would go sit in the theater and we would watch my mother for a little while, and then we'd get bored and we'd get up and we'd go back out and we'd look around. And so that was also a big part of, my memory when I think of my favorite or the show that kind of had me fall in love with it was that place, the Mayapack Farm Playhouse,
Well,
where all of these shows were being done. Yeah.
talk about talk about a life-size playroom for
Yeah,
you
definitely.
as a young child to, like you said, try on the different props or try on the different costumes and play with the different props and talk about really tapping into your creativity as a young kid.
Totally. Well, another really, really cool thing was the people. I was born in 1971, and so I grew up with people who were dying of AIDS.
Mm,
And I they were my friends. They were grown men and women who were dying and surviving and designing costumes and directing and choreographing, and lighting, and acting and singing and doing all sorts of things. And we were all kind of hanging out. I mean, it was like the most incredible community. And I was this tiny little person that was so short around all these kneecaps.
right.
And I was just existing. And I was 100% accepted. And it literally was like my second home. So I was raised with all of these beautiful artists, and it was just show after show after show after show, and I didn't have that in my head as a young person that it was being chronicled that
Mhm,
way.
mhm,
It was
right.
just more like, "Oh, who's this person and what's this thing?" and, "Oh, this song is pretty," and, "Wow, that's an interesting thing that that person's wearing." And besides my love for athletics and soccer and all that, I sort of found that other world, acting, singing, performance.
Yeah.
So that's sorta how it started.
Oh, it's amazing. That's amazing, and I did
Right?
not know that backstory, and,
Yeah.
and I could and the way you described it, I could almost visualize you as a little kid running around in this prop room and
That's
being
exactly what
totally,
it was.
fully immersed
Yeah.
by that culture.
Yeah. That's exactly what it was. It was a culture and
Yeah.
a community, a very, very beautiful community. So,
No, amazing.
yeah, yeah, yeah.
So you've worn so many hats over the years, right?
Yeah.
Actor, director, teacher. How has all of those roles shaped, obviously, not just your career, but you as a person?
Well, I think that if I were to come through the front door with that and try to answer it as directly as possible, I would say I'm not afraid of difficult conversations, and I'm not afraid of being with someone who's going through something that's painful.
Mhm.
Because as an actor and a performer, and certainly any member of that team and a creative team, you're constantly negotiating things that are activating.
Mhm.
Like you're trying to get an emotional response from someone
Sure.
or highlight something that's emotionally powerful, you know. So I guess um I like to live in that space. I'm most comfortable in deep connection and not afraid of it and crave it, um, and wish that I could, do it as often as possible. And I do actually in the classroom, which is really why I'm so grateful that I get to teach because I get to be in that discourse and in that inquiry with my students. So it's where I'm most comfortable. That and being outside in the woods. So,
Well, what a
so I think
beautiful.
that's how it shaped me. Yeah.
Yeah.
Sorry, love.
No, that's no, and that's great because it's a great segue into what
Oh,
I wanted to ask next, which was the whole teaching thing. So how has working with students taught you about storytelling and self-expression?
mm,
Because it is storytelling. We're all telling our stories every day of our lives in some
or-
capacity or another, even to the
right,
standpoint that
right.
you said you're not afraid to have a difficult conversation with someone. I can attest
Yeah.
and agree. I also have no problem having a difficult conversation with someone, but that was my HR background and training, and experience. Really very different, right? But let's talk
Okay.
about teaching. Let's talk about teaching.
Sure. I had no intention whatsoever to pursue a teaching career. That was not in the cards. That was not something that I had earmarked. That was not even something that I planned. A little bit. Well, I know a little bit more than a little bit about you, Dawn, and I can say that you do plan.
Yes, I do. Very yes. As much as I
I
can, I do,
don't.
yes.
And I think that I found myself doing it because of the factors leading up to it. So I s- went to school to play soccer because I got a scholarship because we really couldn't afford college. I could not bear another day of soccer practice, quit the team, join the theater department. This is undergrad.
Mhm,
And then did theater for 4 years in college, left, started doing community theater in my neighborhood upon graduation, got a job, managed a bookstore, and then said, you know what, I need some real training here. And so I went to graduate school. I auditioned for the new school, which was it was the second year that the new school for drama was connected to what was called the Actor Studio Drama School or the Actor Studio. James Lipton, the inside
mhm, mhm,
the actor studio.
mhm,
So that sort of famous Bravo show. So, and that was where I learned the works of Lee Strasberg and studied under Gary Swanson and David Gideon, among others. And I really realized, oh my God, there's a craft to this thing. So you might have some talent over here, McCabe, but there's also skill, technique, and all that. And I had done musical theater, and that was really where I mostly excelled, just because I I'm a singer. So after graduating graduate school, I needed a job to pay my school loans and to continue acting in New York at various theaters. And I got introduced to what was called arts and education, and I started doing at different at risk or they were at that time they were called at risk schools, doing drama therapy. And so I would go in and I would do theater games with these K through 12 schools that needed extra support, behavior issues, conflict resolution, things like that. And so
Wow.
I was doing all that
Mhm.
and teaching them how to manage their feelings and creating a space and a container for them to express what was happening for them. And that was really, really rewarding. I worked at companies like Enact. I worked for the Guggenheim Museum. Um, oh, there's a ton. So I did that for years. And it was in some ways a teaching position because you
Mhm.
are serving as a drama teaching artist. And so you are teaching and engaging with the
With
students,
students, right.
you know, with theater. And then at that point, I was living in Hoboken. I had moved there in 1996 and graduated from grad school in 98. And I was acting in various theater gigs in and around New York, anything I could, pounding the pavement
Mhm.
as you would, kind of know it as. And then I decided I wanted to teach an acting class because I had dipped my toe in over here with these, the drama teaching artist stuff.
Mhm.
And so I did. I don't know if you remember the 14th Street Y up on 14th and
Yes.
Washington. So I walked in and I said, "Hey, I want to teach an acting class. Can I do it?" And they said, "Sure." And they helped me market it. And that was kind of how it started. I worked with all ages, adults and children, and did that for a little while. And then I dipped my toe in across the pond and started teaching a little bit over there privately.
Mhm.
And then I was doing a movie, and the director asked if I taught, and I said I did a little. And then she asked me if I wanted to teach in her screen acting school,
Mhm.
which was an advanced studio at NYU undergraduate drama, the Tisch undergraduate drama division. And so I started doing that and then got asked to do a film class at NYU, in their film division to teach directors how to work with actors. And then it just went on and on and on and on, and it just kept going.
Wow.
Um, and so now, I can sort of say what I'm doing now if you want, Dawn, or I can not,
Yeah,
whatever you
please do,
want. Yeah.
absolutely. Yeah.
Oh, cool. So yeah, so I'm currently an associate professor at Lehman College, in the Bronx, which is a city university. I started in as an assistant in 2014, and then was tenured in 2021, and now I'm actually going up for full professor. And so I still have the NYU job in the film department, and I've been an adjunct there for probably 18 years.
Wow.
And then I'm teaching in the Columbia grad film department now, in teaching directing to the filmmakers.
That's
So
amazing, Jen.
yeah, it's fun. And then I have my own studios here where I do acting retreats in nature, which is really kind of a love of mine.
Yeah.
I find that that's a great environment to open up an actor's instrument even more. So yeah, um, I'm quite blessed.
That's yeah,
Uh,
amazing. And congratulations on tenure.
oh, thanks.
That's
Thanks a lot.
that's an
Yeah,
achievement. You talked about acting retreats, and I
yeah,
wanted to touch on the homesteader piece, and I know you're an upstate New York girl. So how did
right.
those quieter parts of
Mm,
life balance influence, your artistic work or another actor's work?
How did the quieter parts of like being in nature
Yeah.
Im- um, impact like my own self as an artist and also others?
Yeah, or even
Oops.
you teaching others. Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah, great. I love that question so much. I have a little tagline for my private studio, and it's called "Be Act Book." You're shaking your
I
head like
do
you know
remember
it.
that. I
Be
remember
Act,
that
and
tagline.
it's still holding strong. It's
Good.
still holding strong, and I think it's my way of answering that question, which is that what I have found after all these years of practicing the craft of acting and also facilitating it, it's it's all about who you're being.
Mhm.
And it's all about acknowledging who you are and learning who you are and using that in your work. And then you can kind of try this thing called acting, which can lead to the booking of the job and the joy of doing that work. So I find that I'm engaged in that conversation quite often with actors because there's always an agenda. And there
Mhm.
needs to be an agenda. It's like, oh, you want to get the job and you want to
It's
you
a
want to act.
business. Right.
Yeah, you want to do what you're trained to do.
Mhm.
So in some ways the actor bypasses who they are and they go to like what they know
Mhm.
about acting. And it's like, no, 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 wait. You're the product.
Right.
So why don't you start there? And
Right.
then we can look in awe at all of your skill and technique and things like that. So that can be a really hard conversation, especially for someone who's very trained.
Mhm.
It's hard for them to fall back on the vulnerable spots within themselves sometimes.
Well, such
So
beauty.
nature does that. Yeah.
Yeah, and such beauty
Yeah.
comes out of authenticity, right? Like, if you
Yes, totally.
stand in your own space and you present yourself as your most authentic self, then how could it not help you
Right.
book that job in the end,
Right.
right?
Yeah.
Because yeah.
And in the end too, one thing that I'm finding later in my life is how much I enjoy auditioning, that it's an opportunity to act. And you
Yeah.
really get to like have fun. And that happened. The good thing that happened out of COVID was the self-tape generation. And
Oh,
now
okay.
every single audition is a self-tape submission with very few exceptions.
Wow.
You'll jump on a Zoom and you'll do a live callback or something, but even everything from musical theater to anything is all self-taped. So it's all, my studio is actually behind me. I just have to take everything off the wall and pull it out and set it up. But it's
Right.
all home. Everything is done at home and you get to really bring these different characters to life. And it's so much fun because it's almost like, well, if you don't get it, at least you had a lot of fun diving into the world of this piece and presenting something. And then you can just sort of wipe your hands of it and move on with the rest of your life. So I didn't really feel that until much later in life.
Yeah.
Much later. Yeah. I don't know
Well,
why. It is. Yeah.
yeah, I mean, I wonder
Yeah.
why.
I mean, I think in part I do have a little bit of a financial comfort, so that is in part facilitates that, I think.
Sure.
Like, it's not like, I need to, but
Yes.
I also know that as an older woman or a woman of a certain age, it's like there's other things you're trying to get out of the experience.
Mhm.
It's not like you're trying to show them how sexy you are or trying to show them how much they can invest in you in long term.
Right.
And it's really more like, oh, this is a really cool actress
Yeah.
who's bringing this really cool thing to this character.
Yeah.
So I prefer it now. Like I prefer this hustle now
And
than I did when I was
I'm
younger.
not saying that I'm gonna speak for you, but I feel also at this age,
Yeah, yeah.
I don't really care what anybody else thinks.
Yeah. So
I
good.
wanna do something like look, like
Like,
the We Do Not Care Club, like Melanie, who was just on the Drew Barrymore show, and I'm trying to get her
yeah.
on this podcast, so I'm throwing
Oh,
that out in the
nice.
universe. I wanna do something that makes me happy. I really don't care what anybody else why would I have ever cared what anybody else thinks? Of course, we have at certain points and times in our lives,
Yeah.
and it's
Yeah.
understandable and it's justifiable, but
Yeah. And we're also coming from a particular generation.
sure, totally.
That's a very specific generation.
Yeah,
Like I am so happy that I grew up in the generation that I grew up in. Holy moly.
yeah. Gen Xers rock, without a doubt.
Oh
With without
We have everything.
without a doubt.
We have riding around with a crappy plastic skateboard without a helmet to trying to figure out podcasts on Riverside. Like we're
That's
doing it
right.
all.
That's right. That's right. And I had another friend on the podcast, Kurt Byrock, who owns Freakin' Vegan. And
Nice.
he said it, I think, so beautifully. And he's like, there is no give up in us,
Oh
period.
my goodness. I love it.
And that's 1,000% right. So what role transformed you the most?
That's a really hard question. It's kind of like what food transforms you the most, right?
Let's think of it this way. Which one did you enjoy the most?
I mean, they're all one. What I will do is I will, I'm okay to share a couple. The cool thing about growing up with my mother is that we almost have exactly the same voice. It's a really, really cool thing from singing voice. So if you were to hear both of us sing, we almost have exactly the same sound to the voice, like the same
Wow.
range, the same prosody, the same resonance, the same break, the same mix. It's crazy. And so it's not a huge coincidence that I also was able to play the role of Aldonza and Dulcinea and Man of La Mancha, which is a really, really beautiful role and a really beautiful character. So why that one is because of two reasons. Let's see how many reasons. One reason I don't know that I'm at liberty to share,
Okay.
but
All right.
I'll sort of give you sort of a kind of suggestion of it. And the others I can share. The first is that it's an incredible role,
Mm-hmm.
um, and it pushed me. The second is that it was a role that my mother played, and
Sure.
so there was something about that I feel very deeply. It was like
Mm-hmm.
this really beautiful thing. And then the third was that there was a family health issue happening around the time I was doing that gig.
Okay.
And so it was, in a lot of ways, served as a healing device for the person that was experiencing that health
Right.
concern.
Right. Right. Right.
So those reasons. And then the second was when I was able to play the baker's wife in a production of Into the Woods, which is one of my favorite musicals, if not my favorite musical.
Wow.
Um, because she's a very brave woman, a really brave, powerful woman. Yeah. And so that was another one.
Thank you for
Oh,
sharing that. That's
yeah,
amazing.
sure. Sure. My pleasure.
So, Jen, before we go, I ask every guest the same question because I believe the stories we leave behind say so much about how we showed up in the world. So,
Mhm.
tell me one story, big or small, that you hope people remember you for.
Oh my goodness. Oh my goodness. That's very moving. That's a beautiful question. Um, I I experience such a profound reverence when I am in a classroom and I am teaching um, humans who are willing to go to places that are very difficult. And so I think what I would love to be remembered for is that I provided a space for people to be able to do that.
Yeah,
So that's
that's beautiful.
more
And
or
that,
less for me.
look, anybody that puts themselves out there in whatever capacity to allow another individual to be themselves and not be judged by it, or you help guide them to be a better vehicle or a better instrument to express themselves or show their true expression, kudos to you. Beautiful.
Slav. Thanks.
Beautiful.
Beautiful.
Jen, thank you
Thank
for
you.
everything that you shared today. And thank you for being part of the story. And thank you, everyone, for tuning in to this episode of Dawn of a Story. If you heard something today that moved you, made you laugh, or made you think, share it with someone you love. Please like and subscribe to the show. And if you're feeling brave, I'd love to hear your story by commenting below. It helps other story lovers find us too. If you'd like to reach out to Jen, she is reachable through her website. That is jennifermccabe.com. And I will also put that in the show notes. Until next time, keep listening, keep sharing, and keep telling your story. Thank you,
Mm.
Jen. Thank you. This was
Well,
wonderful. Thank
thank
you.
you. It was beautiful. Thank you so much.